The night Kaela Thorn was rejected in front of 300 wolves, she made a promise to herself. They would all remember her name, but not the way they thought. Tonight we're diving into a story of survival, power, and the kind of revenge that doesn't need blood. Just undeniable dominance. If you're still watching by the end, drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that like button. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. The bonfire roared at the center of the Iron Fang gathering grounds, casting jagged shadows across hundreds of faces. Kaela Thorn stood at the edge of the circle, her hands clenched so tight her nails drew blood. She could feel every pair of eyes on her, some curious, most indifferent, a few openly mocking. This was supposed to be her night, the binding ceremony. The moment when her mate bond with Ronan Ashcroft would be sealed before the pack, solidifying her place in the hierarchy. Ronan was the alpha heir, born into power, bred for it. And she was the orphan who'd clawed her way up from nothing, the girl who'd trained twice as hard as anyone else just to be seen. But something was wrong. Ronan stood across from her, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. He hadn't spoken to her in 3 days, hadn't even looked at her during the pre-ceremony rituals. And now, as Elder Torvald called them forward to complete the bond, Ronan didn't move. "Ronan Ashcroft," the elder intoned, his voice echoing across the clearing. "Step forward and claim your mate." Silence. The fire crackled. Someone coughed. Kayla's heartbeat hammered in her ears. "Ronan?" she said quietly, her voice barely carrying. "What are you doing?" He finally looked at her. There was no warmth there. No recognition of the nights they'd spent talking under the stars, the promises he'd whispered when no one else could hear. Just nothing. "I reject the bond," Ronan said. The words hit her like a physical blow. Around them, the crowd erupted, gasps, murmurs, a few sharp laughs. Kaela couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "You... what?" Ronan's expression didn't change. "I, Ronan Ashcroft, reject Kaela Thorn as my mate. I sever the bond between us." The formal words, the ones that couldn't be taken back. Kaela staggered, her wolf howling inside her chest, a sound of pure agony that no one else could hear. The bond didn't just break, it shattered, every fragment tearing through her like glass. "Why?" she managed. Ronan shrugged, actually shrugged. "You're weak, Kaela. You always have been. I need a mate who strengthens my position, not one who drags it down. Look at you. No family, no bloodline, no power. What exactly do you bring to this pack?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not from everyone, but enough. Enough that Kaela felt her face burn with humiliation. "I've fought beside you," she said, her voice shaking. "I've trained harder than anyone here. You've survived," Ronan interrupted. "That's it. And survival isn't enough. Not for an alpha's mate." He turned to Elder Torvald. "The rejection is complete. Remove her from pack bonds." The elder hesitated, his ancient eyes flickering between them. "Ronan, this is highly irregular. The bond was sanctioned by my father, who's not here tonight." Ronan's voice turned sharp. "I'm making the decision. She's out." "Out?" Kaela repeated. Ronan finally met her eyes again. "You heard me? You're no longer Iron Fang. You have until dawn to get beyond our borders. After that, any wolf who finds you has permission to do what they want." The crowd's murmurs shifted from shock to something darker. Anticipation. Entertainment. Kaela looked around wildly. These were wolves she'd grown up with, trained with, bled with, and not one of them was stepping forward to protest. "Mara," she said, spotting her closest friend near the front. "Mara, say something." Mara's eyes dropped to the ground. "Gareth?" He'd been her sparring partner for 2 years. Gareth crossed his arms and looked away. One by one, every face she knew turned from her, even the ones who'd called her friend. Because that's what you did in Iron Fang territory. You followed the alpha heir. You didn't risk your own standing for someone who'd already lost theirs. "This is insane," Kaela said, her shock starting to morph into something else. Something hot and jagged. "You can't just throw me out because you changed your mind." "I can do whatever I want," Ronan said. "That's what power means. And you don't have any." He gestured to 2 enforcers standing nearby. "Escort her to the border." Make sure she understands what happens if she tries to come back. The enforcers moved forward. Kaela thought about fighting, her muscles coiled, her wolf snarling. But what was the point? She couldn't take on 2 full-grown enforcers plus the entire pack. Not here, not now. So she did the only thing she could. She lifted her chin, met Ronan's eyes one last time, and said, "You're going to regret this." He laughed. Actually laughed. "No, I really won't." The enforcers grabbed her arms, not gently, and began dragging her toward the tree line. Behind her, the ceremony continued as if nothing had happened. Someone started playing drums. The bonfire flared higher. Life went on. Kaela didn't look back. They dragged her for 3 miles through the forest, not stopping even when she stumbled on roots or rocks. Her wrists would be bruised by morning. Not that it mattered. She probably wouldn't live to see morning. The Iron Fang borders backed onto the waste, a stretch of frozen wilderness where the temperature dropped 20 degrees and the wildlife got mean. Rogues prowled out here, wolves who'd been exiled from their own packs and had nothing left to lose. No one survived the waste alone. That was the point. When they finally reached the border marker, a line of stones marked with the pack's sigil, the enforcers shoved her forward hard enough that she hit the ground. "Don't come back," one of them said. He sounded almost bored. Then they were gone, disappearing back into the trees like shadows. Kaela stayed on her hands and knees for a long moment, breathing hard. The ground was cold. Everything was cold. The waste lived up to its name. Even the air felt dead out here. She pushed herself up slowly, testing her limbs. Nothing broken. That was something. Okay, she thought. Okay, think. She had no supplies, no food, no water, no shelter. The clothes on her back and nothing else. It was already past midnight, which meant she had maybe 6 hours before the temperature really plummeted. After that? No. She wasn't going to think about after that. She started walking. The first hour wasn't too bad. Adrenaline kept her warm, kept her moving. She focused on putting one foot in front of the other, on not thinking about Ronan's face or the crowd's laughter or the way Mara had looked away. But adrenaline only lasts so long. By the second hour, she was shivering. Her thin ceremonial clothes, meant to look good by firelight, not to provide actual warmth, were utterly useless. The wind cut through them like they weren't even there. By the third hour, her teeth were chattering so hard she bit her tongue and tasted blood. Keep moving. Just keep moving. But moving where? There was nothing out here. No shelter, no caves, no abandoned structures, just endless frozen forest stretching in every direction. She thought about shifting into her wolf form. It would be warmer, at least temporarily, but wolves burned energy faster and she had no food. Once her wolf form exhausted itself, she'd shift back, and then she'd be even worse off than before. So she stayed human, and she kept walking. Somewhere around hour 4, she heard the howl. Kaela froze mid-step, her breath fogging in the air. That wasn't a regular wolf. It was too deep, too resonant. A shifter. A rogue. Another howl answered the first. This one closer. Then another. And another. Oh no. Rogues hunted in packs out here. They had to survive. And a lone wolf stumbling through their territory? That was easy prey. Kaela broke into a run. Behind her, the howls multiplied. They'd picked up her scent, 4, maybe 5 of them. Too many to fight. Her only chance was to outrun them, find somewhere defensible, something. Her foot caught on a root, and she went down hard, slamming into the frozen ground. Pain exploded through her shoulder. She tried to push herself up, but her right arm buckled. The howls were getting closer. No. No, not like this. She forced herself to her feet, cradling her injured arm, and stumbled forward. There, between 2 massive pine trees, she could see what looked like a gap in the earth. A crevice maybe, or the entrance to something. It was small, but if she could squeeze in there, she half ran, half fell toward it, diving into the gap just as the first rogue burst from the tree line behind her. The crevice was narrow, barely wide enough for her shoulders, but it opened up slightly as she crawled deeper. The space was pitch black, the walls rough stone that scraped her skin, but she didn't stop until she physically couldn't go any further. Outside, she heard snarling, scraping. A massive paw reached into the crevice, claws extended, searching. It came within inches of her face. Kaela pressed herself against the back wall and didn't breathe. The rogues circled for what felt like hours, clawing at the entrance, trying to dig their way in. But the crevice was solid rock, and while they were big enough to cause damage, they weren't big enough to actually break through. Eventually, finally, the sounds faded. They hadn't given up, Kaela knew. They were just waiting, patient, because she had to come out eventually. She closed her eyes and tried to think. This was it. This was how she died, trapped in a frozen hole in the ground, waiting for rogues to pick her apart the moment she emerged. Ronan had been right. She was weak. She couldn't even survive one night. No, the thought came from somewhere deep, somewhere primal. Her wolf, maybe, or just some stubborn part of her that refused to quit. You're not weak. You never were. But what could she do? She was trapped, injured, freezing. She had nothing. You have yourself. Kaela opened her eyes. The darkness inside the crevice was absolute. She couldn't see her own hand in front of her face. But she could feel. Feel the stone around her. Feel the cold. Feel the way her wolf paced inside her chest, restless and furious and alive. What had Ronan said? That she had no power? He was wrong. Power wasn't something you were born with. It was something you took, something you built. And if she was going to die out here, she'd do it on her own terms. Kaela closed her eyes and reached inward toward her wolf. Usually, the shift was instantaneous. Her wolf form was always right there, waiting. But this time, she didn't just reach for the shift. She reached deeper, toward something she'd felt before but never fully touched, a presence that lived beneath her wolf, older and stranger. What are you? The presence stirred, and then it answered. Pain ripped through her, not the familiar discomfort of shifting, but something else entirely. Something that felt like her bones were rewriting themselves, like her blood was turning to fire. She tried to scream, but nothing came out, just a choked gasp as her body convulsed. Heat flooded through her. Impossible heat in a place where everything should be frozen. Her skin burned. Her muscles spasmed. Her vision went white. And then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Kaela collapsed against the stone wall, gasping. Her whole body was shaking, but not from cold. From something else. Something that felt like lightning trapped under her skin. She looked down at her hands. They were glowing. Not literally, but almost. There was a faint shimmer around them, like heat distortion, and when she moved her fingers, the air rippled. What the hell? Outside the crevice, one of the rogues snarled. She'd forgotten about them. But now, as she focused on the sound, something strange happened. She could feel them. Not just hear them, feel them. Their presence, their positions, the way they moved. 4 of them, circling about 20 feet from the entrance, waiting. Kaela stared at her hands again. The shimmer was fading, but she could still feel it, still feel that presence inside her, coiled and ready. She didn't know what this was, didn't understand it, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She wasn't going to die here. Kaela took a breath, then another. The pain was gone now, replaced by something that felt almost like euphoria. Like every nerve in her body was firing at once. She crawled toward the entrance of the crevice. The moment she emerged, all 4 rogues lunged. But Kaela was faster. She moved without thinking, her body responding to instincts she didn't know she had. One rogue came at her from the left. She ducked under its jaws and drove her fist into its throat. The impact sent the rogue sprawling backward, whimpering. Another attacked from behind. Kaela spun, grabbed its snout mid-bite, and twisted. The rogue yelped and scrambled away. The other 2 hesitated, suddenly wary. Kaela straightened, her breath coming in harsh pants. She could feel that presence inside her burning brighter, demanding more. Demanding she stop holding back. Fine. She let go. What happened next she would never fully remember. Just flashes, movement, impact, the sound of snarling that might have been hers or theirs. When her vision cleared, all 4 rogues were gone, fleeing into the forest like terrified prey. Kaela stood in the middle of the clearing, her hands still shimmering faintly, her heart racing. What am I? She didn't have an answer. But as she looked around at the trampled snow, the claw marks, the blood, none of it hers, she felt something shift inside her chest. Not fear, not despair. Power, real power. The kind Ronan said she didn't have. Kaela turned her face toward the wind, toward the direction of Ironfang territory, and smiled. They'd cast her out to die. Instead, they just created something they couldn't control. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Kaela kept moving, driven by instinct more than conscious thought. The strange power inside her had faded back to a low simmer, but she could still feel it, still access it when she needed to. Twice more, rogues tried to ambush her. Both times she drove them off. Not just survived, dominated. By the time dawn broke over the waste, painting the frozen landscape in shades of gray and gold, Kaela had traveled deeper into the wilderness than any Iron Fang wolf had gone in decades. She found shelter in a cave, a real one this time, deep enough to block the wind. There was even a small stream nearby, the water so cold it hurt her teeth, but drinkable. Kaela sat at the cave entrance watching the sun rise and took stock. She was alive, injured, exhausted, half frozen, but alive. She had no pack, no allies, no resources. But she had something else now, something the Iron Fang wolves didn't have, something Ronan with all his inherited power could never touch. She had hunger, not for food, though she'd need to find that soon, but for something deeper, a hunger to prove every single one of them wrong, to become strong enough that they'd never be able to dismiss her again, to become something they couldn't ignore. Kaela closed her eyes and felt the strange power pulse inside her chest, warm and waiting. They wanted to throw me away, she thought. Fine. Let's see what they created. She had no plan, no strategy, just a bone-deep certainty that this wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning. And when she finally walked back through Iron Fang territory, not as the girl they'd rejected, but as something else entirely, they were going to wish they'd killed her when they had the chance. Kaela opened her eyes and stared at the horizon. "My name is Kaela Thorn," she said aloud, her voice steady. "And you're all going to remember it." The waste didn't answer. But somewhere deep inside her, that strange presence stirred again, waiting, growing, becoming. The first week in the waste taught Kaela that survival wasn't about strength. It was about stubbornness. She ate things she'd never considered food before. Tree bark when she could strip it without breaking her nails off. Frozen berries that made her stomach cramp. Once, a half-dead rabbit she'd found already torn apart by something bigger. She didn't think about what that something was. The cave became her territory. Small, cold, barely adequate, but hers. She marked the entrance with stones in a pattern that meant nothing to anyone but her. A ritual. Something to hold on to when the nights got so cold she couldn't feel her fingers. That strange power inside her flickered on and off like a faulty light. Sometimes it surged when she needed it, when rogues came sniffing around, when she needed to hunt. Other times it vanished completely, leaving her gasping and weak. She didn't understand it, didn't know how to control it, but she was learning. On the 8th day, she caught her first real meal. It was a deer, old, injured, limping through the snow. Under normal circumstances, Kaela would have needed her wolf form to take it down. But when she focused on that presence inside her, when she let it rise to the surface, her human body moved faster than it should, stronger than it should. The deer didn't suffer long. She ate until her stomach hurt, then cached the rest in a snowbank. Waste nothing. That was the rule out here. On the 10th day, she had visitors. Kaela was skinning a rabbit. Her traps were getting better when she felt them. Not heard, felt. That strange awareness pulsed, showing her 3 presences approaching from the east. Wolves. Not rogues, though. These moved with too much coordination. She wiped the blood off her hands and stood, positioning herself at the cave entrance. 3 wolves emerged from the tree line. They were in animal form, but the intelligence in their eyes marked them as shifters. One was massive, dark gray with scars across his muzzle. The other 2 were smaller, leaner, siblings, maybe, with matching rust-colored fur. The gray wolf shifted first. A man in his 40s materialized, naked and unconcerned about it. Most shifters weren't. Clothes were expensive and shifting destroyed them. "You're new," he said. His voice was rough, like he'd smoked for decades. Maybe he had. Kaela didn't move. "And you're trespassing." That got a laugh from one of the rust-colored wolves. It shifted too, a woman, younger than the man, with the same sharp features. "Trespassing? In the waste? That's cute." "This is my territory," Kaela said flatly. The man studied her, his eyes calculating. "You're that Iron Fang girl, the one they threw out." Not a question. Kayla's jaw tightened. "News travels fast." "It does when it's funny." The woman grinned, showing too many teeth. Rejected at your own bonding ceremony. That's gotta sting. The third wolf, still in animal form, growled low. A warning. Easy, Jax, the man said, not looking away from Kaela. We're just talking. He paused. I'm Decker, this is Reese, and the grumpy one is Jax. We run a pack about 15 miles north of here. I don't care, Kaela said. Decker raised an eyebrow. You should. There aren't many of us out here who aren't completely feral. And a lone wolf? You'll be dead in a month. I've made it 2 weeks. Sure. In a cave, eating scraps, barely surviving. Decker took a step closer. Come with us. Join our pack. You'll have food, shelter, protection. All we ask is that you contribute, hunt, fight when we need it. Fair trade. It was a reasonable offer. Probably the best she'd get out here. But Kaela looked at the way Decker held himself, the way Reese watched her with barely concealed contempt, and she knew exactly what contribute meant. No, she said. Reese snorted. Are you serious? You think you're too good for us? I think I don't want to join a pack run by scavengers. Decker's expression hardened. Watch your mouth, girl. Or what? The words were out before Kaela could stop them. That power inside her was stirring again, responding to the threat. Jack shifted. Another man, younger than Decker, with the same scarred look. Or we stop being polite and just take what we want. You can try. It was stupid. Suicidal, even. 3 against 1, and all of them looked like they'd survived plenty of fights. But Kaela was so tired of being dismissed, so tired of everyone assuming she was weak. Decker sighed, I don't want to hurt you, kid, but if you're going to be stupid about this... He lunged. Kaela moved without thinking. That power surged through her, hot and wild, and suddenly Decker wasn't fast enough. She sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to slam him face first into the ground. Reese and Jax stared. Decker groaned, rolled over, and spat blood. What the hell was that? Kaela didn't answer. She didn't know. Reese shifted back into wolf form and attacked, going for Kayla's throat. But Kaela could feel her coming, could track every movement like it was happening in slow motion. She dropped, swept Reese's legs, paws, out from under her, and drove her elbow into the wolf's ribs. Reese yelped and scrambled backward. Jax didn't attack. He just stared at Kaela, his expression somewhere between shock and fear. You're not normal. No, Kaela said quietly. I'm not. Decker pushed himself up slowly, one hand pressed to his bleeding nose. What are you? Still figuring that out. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Decker laughed, a harsh, breathless sound. All right, you made your point. We'll leave you alone. He glanced at his packmates. Come on. They left without another word, disappearing back into the forest. Kaela stood there until she couldn't feel their presence anymore. Then her knees buckled. She caught herself against the cave wall, her whole body shaking. That power was fading again, leaving her hollow and exhausted. But this time it had lasted longer, responded faster. She was getting better at using it, whatever it was. Winter deepened. The waste became a frozen hell where the temperature didn't rise above 0 even at midday. Kayla's hands cracked and bled from the cold. Her lips split. She lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. But she didn't die. She learned to hunt in the dark, using that strange awareness to track prey she couldn't see. She learned to fight in her human form, using speed and precision instead of brute strength. She learned that the power inside her responded to need. The more desperate the situation, the stronger it became. On the 20th day, she took down a full-grown rogue by herself. On the 30th day, she took down 3. Word spread. In the lawless territory of the Waste, reputation mattered, and Kaela was building one. Did you hear about the Thorn girl? Took out 5 of Garrett's rogues last week. I heard she doesn't even shift, just fights in skin and win. That's impossible. Tell that to Garrett. Kaela heard the whispers when she ventured close to the scattered settlements that dotted the Waste, ramshackle clusters of exiles trying to survive together. They gave her space now, respect, or maybe just fear. She didn't care which, but not everyone kept their distance. On day 43, a new visitor arrived at her cave. This one came alone, hands raised, clearly unarmed. It was a woman, maybe 60, with gray streaked through her dark hair and eyes that had seen too much. She stopped 20 feet from the cave entrance and waited. Kaela emerged slowly. "Who are you?" "My name is Vera." The woman's voice was calm, steady. "I heard you were out here. Wanted to see for myself if the stories were true." "What stories?" "That there's a girl in the waste who fights like nothing anyone's ever seen, who has power she shouldn't have." Vera tilted her head. "Are they true?" Kayla's hand moved instinctively to her side, where she'd started keeping a makeshift knife. "Maybe." "Easy. I'm not here to fight." Vera lowered her hands. "I'm here to help." "I don't need help." "Yeah, you do. You just don't know it yet." Vera gestured to the cave. "Can I come in? It's freezing out here, and I'm too old to be standing around in the snow." Against her better judgment, Kaela stepped aside. Vera entered the cave, looked around, and let out a low whistle. "You've done well for yourself. Most exiles don't last 2 weeks. You've made it, what, 6? 43 days. Even better." Vera sat down on a flat rock, moving like her joints hurt. "So, you want to know what you are?" Kaela froze. "How did you—" "Because I've seen it before. A long time ago." Vera met her eyes. "You have ancient blood, girl. Old magic from before the pack split into territories, before we had rules and hierarchies and all the bullshit that comes with civilization. That doesn't make sense. I'm nobody. No family, no bloodline, just an orphan who was never supposed to exist," Vera finished. "Right, but someone in your family line had this power, and it skipped down through the generations until it landed in you. It's rare, very rare. Most wolves who carry it never activate it. You need a trigger, usually trauma, something that pushes you past your limits and breaks down the barriers keeping the power locked away." Vera's expression softened slightly. "I'm guessing yours was that rejection ceremony." Kaela looked away. She didn't want to think about that night. Didn't want to remember Ronan's face or the crowd's laughter. "The problem," Vera continued, "is that you don't know how to control it. It's burning through you right now, and if you're not careful, it'll consume you completely." "So what do I do?" "You train properly." Vera stood up. "I can teach you how to access the power without it draining you, how to use it without losing yourself, how to become something the packs have forgotten about." "And what's that?" Vera smiled. It wasn't a kind expression. "An alpha who doesn't need permission." Kaela stared at her. "Why would you help me?" "Because the packs need to be reminded that power isn't just about bloodlines and politics. Because I'm old and bitter and I'd like to see them squirm before I die." Vera shrugged. "Pick your reason. Does it matter?" It probably should have, but Kaela was too desperate to care. "What do I have to do?" "First, stop living in this cave like a feral. You need a real base of operations." Vera headed for the entrance. "Pack your things. We're moving." "Where?" "There's an old outpost about 30 miles east. Abandoned military structure from before the territories formed. Stone walls, defensible position, near water." Vera glanced back. "It'll do." Kaela hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, that Vera was manipulating her for some purpose she couldn't see yet. But what choice did she have? Stay in this cave forever? Hope the power inside her didn't eventually kill her? She grabbed her few possessions, the knife, some dried meat, a blanket she'd scavenged, and followed. The outpost was exactly what Vera had promised. 3 stone buildings arranged in a triangle, half buried in snow but structurally sound. There was even a well in the center that still worked. "Home sweet home," Vera said, surveying the area. "Or it will be, once you clean it up." Over the next week, Kaela did exactly that. She cleared the snow, repaired what could be repaired, made the largest building livable. Vera supervised but didn't help much, claiming her back couldn't handle the work. Kaela suspected she was just lazy. But when the training started, Vera proved she knew exactly what she was doing. "Power without control is just chaos," Vera said on the first morning. They stood in the center of the outpost, facing each other. "Right now, you're reacting. Letting the power use you instead of the other way around. We're going to change that." "How?" "By breaking you down and building you back up. By pushing you until you think you can't go any further, and then pushing harder." Vera's eyes glinted. "By teaching you that strength isn't about surviving. It's about dominating." The training was brutal. Vera made her run until she collapsed, made her fight while exhausted, made her tap into the power over and over until Kaela's body screamed for mercy. Again, Vera would say, standing over her. I can't. Again. And Kaela would get up. Because what was the alternative? Quit? Go back to that cave? Back to barely surviving? No. If she was going to do this, she was going to do it right. Weeks blurred together. Kaela learned to access the power without waiting for desperation. Learned to maintain it for longer periods. Learned to fight with a precision that had nothing to do with size or strength, and everything to do with knowing exactly where to strike. You're getting better, Vera said one evening. They were sitting by the fire, Kaela's muscles aching from the day's training. Faster than I expected. Not fast enough. Patience. Rome wasn't built in a day. Kaela didn't know what Rome was, but she got the point. How long did it take you to master this? Vera was quiet for a moment. I never did. Not completely. That's why I'm out here instead of... She trailed off. It doesn't matter. You're stronger than I was. You'll go further. Why me? Really? Vera stared into the fire. Because someone needs to shake things up. The packs have gotten comfortable, complacent. They think power is something you inherit, not something you earn. You're going to prove them wrong. And if I don't, then you'll die out here and the world will keep spinning. Vera met her eyes. But I don't think you will. You've got that look. The one that says you'd rather burn everything down than admit defeat. She wasn't wrong. What? 3 months after her rejection, Kaela returned to the border. Not to cross it. Not yet. But close enough to see the patrol routes, to watch the Iron Fang wolves as they moved through their territory, confident and careless. She'd changed. The girl who'd been dragged to this border and thrown away didn't exist anymore. In her place was something leaner, harder. Something that had learned to survive on nothing and thrive on spite. Vera had gone back to wherever she came from 2 weeks earlier, claiming she'd taught Kaela everything she could. The rest is up to you, she'd said. Make it count. Kaela planned to. She watched an Iron Fang patrol pass, 5 wolves, including Gareth, her old sparring partner. They were laughing about something, relaxed. They didn't even glance toward the waist. Why would they? Nothing dangerous came from there. Kaela smiled. She turned and headed back to the outpost. She had work to do, plans to make. Because Vera was right about one thing, Kaela was done just surviving. It was time to start building. The first wolf to join her came by accident. Kaela was hunting when she heard the fight. 2 rogues against 1 wolf, and the lone wolf was losing. Badly. She almost kept walking. Not her problem. But something made her stop. The lone wolf was young, barely more than a pup, really. Male, with sandy fur and a bite wound bleeding heavily from his shoulder. He was trying to fight back, but the rogues were toying with him, playing. Kaela dropped from the tree she'd been perched in and landed between the rogues and their prey. That's enough, she said. The rogues turned. Both of them were massive, easily twice her size. One of them laughed. Walk away, girl. This doesn't concern you. I'm making it my concern. The rogue stepped closer, still grinning. You got a death wish or something? Kaela let the power rise. She didn't need to explain, didn't need to threaten. She just moved. 10 seconds later, both rogues were on the ground. One wasn't getting up. The other was crawling away, whimpering. Kaela turned to the young wolf. You all right? He shifted. A kid, maybe 17, with wide eyes and blood soaking through his shirt. You just... Yeah. Can you walk? I think so. He staggered to his feet. Why did you help me? Good question. Kaela wasn't sure herself. What's your name? Finn. Well, Finn, you were about to die. Seemed like a waste. She studied him. Where's your pack? Don't have one. I got exiled from the Stoneclaw territory 3 weeks ago. What'd you do? Challenged the wrong wolf. Finn touched his shoulder and winced. My dad was second in command. When he died, I thought I could take his place. Turned out I couldn't. Kaela understood that story. You know first aid? A little. Can you hunt? When I'm not being attacked, yeah. She shouldn't do this. Taking in strays was stupid, dangerous. But looking at Finn, she saw herself 3 months ago, cast out, alone, trying to survive on nothing but stubbornness. "I've got an outpost about 5 miles from here," she said. "Food, shelter, medical supplies. You want in?" Finn blinked. "What's the catch?" "You work. Hunt, scout, help defend the territory. And if I tell you to do something, you do it without arguing. That's it?" "That's it." Finn looked at her like she'd just offered him the world. Maybe she had. Yeah, okay, I'm in." And just like that, Kaela had her first follower. Finn healed fast. Within a week, he was pulling his weight. Within 2, he'd brought in another exile, a woman named Kira who'd left her pack voluntarily after her mate died. She was older, experienced, and didn't ask questions. "I heard there was someone building something out here," Kira said when she arrived. "Figured I'd see what it was about." "And?" Kaela asked. Kira looked around the outpost, at the repairs Kaela had made, at the organized supplies, at Finn standing guard by the entrance. "I'm interested." By month 4, there were 7 of them. By month 5, 12. Word spread through the waste the same way it always did. Whispers, rumors, stories that might be exaggerations but probably weren't. There was someone out there building a pack. Not scavengers, not rogues, but something different, organized, strong. And they were taking in anyone who could prove they were willing to work. Kaela didn't plan it. It just happened. 1 stray became 2, 2 became 5, 5 became a dozen. Exiles mostly. Wolves who'd been thrown out or left behind or just got tired of pack politics and wanted something different. She gave them structure, purpose, a place where strength mattered more than bloodline. "You're building an army," Vera said when she visited one day. She'd shown up unannounced, looked around the outpost, and nodded approvingly. "I'm building a pack," Kaela corrected. "Same thing, out here." Vera watched as Finn and 2 others practiced combat drills in the courtyard. "They're loyal to you, you know that, right? These wolves would follow you anywhere." Kaela didn't respond. She'd noticed. Every time she gave an order, they obeyed. Every time she made a decision, they trusted it. It was strange, powerful, terrifying. "What are you going to do with them?" Vera asked. Kaela looked toward the south, toward Ironfang territory. "I don't know yet." Vera smiled. Liar. Maybe she was. Because deep down, Kaela knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to remind the Ironfang pack what they'd thrown away, and she was going to make sure they never forgot it. On day 147, an Ironfang scout crossed into her territory. Kaela's wolves caught him before he got 100 yards past the border. They brought him to the outpost, hands bound, looking terrified. Kaela studied him. He was young, probably on his first solo patrol. His uniform, such as it was, marked him as low-ranked. "What's your name?" she asked. Marcus." "Well, Marcus, you're trespassing." "I didn't know. I swear I just got turned around." "You're lying." Kaela crouched in front of him. "Ironfang scouts don't get turned around. You were checking to see if the rumors were true." Marcus went pale. "Please, I was just—" "Go back," Kaela said. "Tell your alpha what you saw here. Tell him the waste isn't empty anymore. Tell him—" She paused. "Tell him Kaela Thorn sends her regards." She watched the terror flood Marcus's face as he recognized her name. You're supposed to be dead." "Clearly I'm not." She gestured to Finn. "Let him go." "Are you sure?" Finn asked. "Once he reports back—" "That's the point." They released Marcus, who ran like hell itself was chasing him, which, in a way, it was. Kira approached, frowning. "You just declared war." "No," Kaela said, watching the scout disappear into the forest. "I just reminded them I exist." The message would reach Ronan within days. And then things would get interesting. Kaela smiled, feeling that power pulse inside her chest. Steady now, controlled, ready. Let them come. The words echoed in Kaela's head for 3 days before the response arrived. Not from Ronan. From someone worse. She was drilling with Finn and 2 newer recruits, teaching them how to exploit an opponent's blind spots, when Kira came running from the southern watchtower. "We've got company," Kira said, breathing hard. "Big company." Kaela wiped sweat from her forehead. "How many?" 20, maybe 25, full combat formation." "Ironfang?" "Yeah, and they brought their war chief." That made Kaela pause. Ironfang didn't send their war chief for small matters. Thane Corvus was a legend in the territories. A wolf who'd fought in the border wars, who'd killed more rogues than anyone could count, who'd never lost a challenge. Get everyone to defensive positions, Kaela said. Now. Her pack, she'd started thinking of them that way, whether she wanted to or not, moved with practiced efficiency. 12 wolves against 25 wasn't great odds, but they knew this territory. They'd prepared for this. Kaela climbed to the top of the main building and waited. The Iron Fang force appeared at the tree line exactly where she expected them. They moved in formation, disciplined and deadly. At their center walked a man who could only be Thane, massive even by shifter standards, with gray streaking through his black hair and scars covering every visible inch of skin. He stopped 50 yards from the outpost and crossed his arms. "Kaela Thorn," he called out, his voice carried like thunder. "Show yourself!" Kaela stood up on the roof, making herself visible. "I'm right here." Thane studied her for a long moment. "You've caused quite a stir, girl, sending our scouts back with messages, building a pack in exile territory, starting to look like you're planning something." "And if I am?" "Then you're stupider than I thought." Thane gestured to the wolves behind him. "You've got, what, a dozen strays? We've got 200 trained warriors. You do the math." "Math was never my strong suit," Kaela said, "but I'm good at other things." "Yeah? Like what?" "Surviving." That got a few chuckles from the Iron Fang wolves. Thane didn't smile. "Here's how this goes," he said. "You have two choices. 1. You disband this little camp, send your strays back to wherever they came from, and disappear. We'll pretend this never happened. And option 2? We burn this place to the ground with you in it." Kaela felt her pack tensing behind her. Finn had an arrow nocked, Kira's hand was on her knife, and the others were ready to shift at a moment's notice. They were outnumbered, but not outmatched. Not anymore. "I've got a third option," Kaela said. "I'm listening. You leave, right now, and you tell Ronan that his mistake has teeth." The Iron Fang wolves bristled. A few started moving forward, but Thane raised his hand and they stopped. "You've got balls, I'll give you that," Thane said. "But balls don't win fights. Experience does. Training does. And you're just a rejected pup playing alpha." "Then prove it." Kaela jumped down from the roof, landing in the courtyard. "You and me, right here. If I win, you leave. If you win, we disband." Thane actually laughed. "You want to challenge me? Girl, I've been killing wolves since before you were born. So it should be easy, right?" The war chief's expression shifted. He wasn't laughing anymore. "You really want to die that badly? I want to see if you're as good as they say you are." For a moment, Kaela thought he'd refuse, that he'd just order his wolves to attack and be done with it. But Thane had a reputation to maintain, and refusing a formal challenge, that would damage it. "Fine," he said. "But when I'm done with you, don't expect mercy." "I won't." Thane stripped off his shirt and stepped into the clearing between the two groups. Kaela did the same, ignoring the cold biting at her skin. They circled each other. "You know," Thane said conversationally, "I actually felt bad for you. When Ronan rejected you, that was cruel, even for him. Save your pity. I'm just saying, you could have had a decent life, quiet, safe. Instead, you chose this." He gestured around. "Why?" "Because quiet and safe isn't living." Thane shrugged. "Your funeral." He attacked. The war chief was fast, faster than anyone his size had a right to be. His first punch would have taken Kayla's head off if she hadn't ducked. The second would have broken her ribs if she hadn't rolled away. "Come on," Thane taunted. "I thought you had teeth." Kaela didn't respond. She was feeling him out, watching his patterns. Thane fought like someone who'd never lost. Aggressive, confident, overwhelming. Most opponents probably folded under that pressure. Kaela wasn't most opponents. She let the power rise. Not all of it, just enough to sharpen her reflexes. When Thane came at her again, she was ready. She ducked under his guard and drove her fist into his kidney, hard. Thane grunted and stumbled. "There we go," Kaela said. The war chief's eyes narrowed. "So you've got a trick. Cute." He shifted. In wolf form, Thane was terrifying, bigger than any wolf Kaela had ever seen, with jaws that could crush bone like it was nothing. He lunged, going straight for her throat. Kaela shifted too. Her wolf form was smaller, leaner, built for speed rather than power. But as she felt that ancient presence surge through her, something changed. Her wolf became something else, something faster, stronger, more dangerous. She met Thane's charge head-on. The impact sent both of them sprawling. They rolled, snapping and clawing, neither giving ground. Kaela felt teeth sink into her shoulder and ignored the pain, twisting to rake her claws across Thane's face. He yelped and released her. They separated, circling again. Blood dripped from both of them, staining the snow. Thane shifted back to human form, breathing hard. "What are you?" "Still figuring that out." She shifted back too. Her shoulder was bleeding badly, but the pain was distant. Background noise. Thane wiped blood from his face. "I'm going to ask you one more time. Stand down. This doesn't have to end with you dead." "Yes, it does." "Why?" "Because if I back down now, I'm just the girl they threw away. The one who wasn't good enough." Kaela met his eyes. "I'm done being that girl." Thane sighed. "Then I'm sorry." He attacked again, and this time he wasn't holding back. Every strike was meant to kill, every move calculated to end the fight. He was a master, and it showed. But Kaela had something he didn't. She had nothing to lose. She let the power flood through her completely, burning away exhaustion and pain and doubt. Her body moved on pure instinct, faster than thought. She could feel Thane's next move before he made it, could anticipate every shift in weight and balance. When he lunged, she sidestepped and caught his arm. When he tried to throw her, she rolled with it and used his momentum against him. When he went for a killing blow, she was already gone. And then she saw her opening. Thane overextended, just slightly, just for a fraction of a second. But it was enough. Kaela drove her knee into his solar plexus, then followed up with an elbow to his temple. The war chief went down hard, hitting the ground like a felled tree. Silence. Kaela stood over him, breathing hard, her whole body shaking. Thane was conscious but stunned, blood running from his nose. "Stay down," she said quietly. For a moment she thought he'd get back up, thought he'd keep fighting until one of them was dead. But Thane looked up at her, and something in his expression shifted. "You're not normal," he said. "I know." "No, I mean—" He coughed, spat blood. "I fought hundreds of wolves, thousands, and I've never felt anything like that. Whatever you are, it's not just shifter blood." "Does it matter?" Thane pushed himself to sitting, wincing. "Yeah, it does." He looked back at his wolves, then at Kaela. "All right, you win. We'll leave." "Just like that?" "I gave my word. We fight. Winner decides." Thane stood slowly, swaying. "But this isn't over. Ronan's not going to let this slide." "Good. I'm counting on it." The war chief studied her for another long moment, then nodded once and gestured to his wolves. They retreated, disappearing back into the forest. Kaela stood there until they were completely gone. Then her legs gave out. Finn caught her before she hit the ground. "Holy shit," he breathed. "You actually did it." "Yeah." Kaela tried to stand and couldn't. The power had burned through her reserves completely. "Help me inside." Finn and Kira half carried her to the main building and laid her on her cot. Someone brought water. Someone else started bandaging her shoulder. "You should rest," Kira said. "Can't. We need to prepare." Kayla's vision was blurring. "They'll be back with more wolves. Better plan." "Later. Rest first." Kaela wanted to argue, but exhaustion dragged her under before she could form words. She woke to voices arguing outside. "Can't keep doing this," someone was saying. One of the newer recruits, a man named Darren. "Did you see that fight? She's going to get us all killed." "She won," Finn shot back. "She beat Thane Corvus. Do you have any idea how insane that is?" "Doesn't matter. Iron Fang has 200 wolves. We have 12. The math doesn't work." "Then leave," Kira said coldly. "Door's right there. No one's forcing you to stay." Silence. Kaela pushed herself up, ignoring the way her shoulder screamed in protest. She stepped outside. All 12 of her wolves were there, scattered around the courtyard. "Darren's right," she said. Everyone turned. Darren looked surprised, maybe relieved. "The math doesn't work," Kaela continued. If Iron Fang comes back with their full force, we lose. Simple as that. So what do we do? Finn asked. We change the math. Kira frowned. How? Kaela looked around at her pack. These wolves had followed her because they had nowhere else to go, because she'd given them something when they had nothing. They'd earned her loyalty. Time to see if she'd earned theirs. Iron Fang isn't the only pack in the territories, Kaela said. There are 5 major packs, plus dozens of smaller groups, and most of them hate each other. So we make them an offer. The Waste is unclaimed territory. No pack has ever been able to hold it because it's too harsh and the rogues are too dangerous. But we've held it for months. Darren shook his head. I don't follow. We offer them what they've always wanted, access to the Waste, hunting rights, passage rights, whatever they need, in exchange for alliance. You want to ally with other packs? Kira looked skeptical. They threw most of us out. Why would they work with us? Because it's not about us. It's about Iron Fang. Kaela smiled grimly. Every pack in the territories wants to see Ronan's family knock down a peg. We give them the chance to do it without risking their own wolves. Finn was nodding slowly. You're going to start a war. I'm going to finish one. The pack exchanged glances. Kaela could see the fear in some of their faces. The doubt. But also something else. Hope. I'm in, Finn said. Me too, Kira added. One by one, the others nodded. Even Darren, after a long pause. All right, Kaela said. Then here's what we do. She sent messengers to every pack within 100 miles. The message was simple. The Waste was open for negotiation. Come to the neutral ground at the Old Stone Circle, 3 days from now. Come alone or bring guards. She didn't care. Just come. This is insane, Vera said when she showed up again. The old woman had a habit of appearing whenever things got interesting. You're inviting every major alpha to one place? You know they might just decide to kill you and divide the Waste between themselves. They might, Kaela agreed, but they won't. You sound very sure of that. I am. Vera studied her. You've changed. When I left, you were still figuring out what you were. Now, she trailed off. Now you know. I know enough. And what are you exactly? Kaela looked at her hands. Even dormant, she could feel that power coiled inside her, ready to spring. I'm whatever I need to be. On the 3rd day, Kaela walked to the stone circle. It was an ancient place, older than any pack, where neutral meetings had been held for generations. Finn and Kira came with her, along with 3 others. The rest stayed behind to guard the outpost. They arrived at dawn. 6 other groups were already there. Kaela recognized the banners: Stoneclaw, Riverbend, Nightfall, Ashwood, and 2 smaller packs she didn't know. Each had brought between 3 and 10 wolves, and at the center of the circle stood Ronan. Kaela's breath caught. She hadn't expected him to come personally, but there he was, looking exactly the same as the night he'd rejected her. Tall, handsome, radiating confidence. Their eyes met across the clearing. Ronan's expression was unreadable. An older woman stepped forward, Mira Stoneclaw, alpha of the Stoneclaw pack. Well, this should be interesting. She looked at Kaela. You're the girl who beat Thane Corvus. I am. And you're the one claiming the Waste as your territory. I've held it for 4 months. That makes it mine. A man from Nightfall laughed. You and 12 strays? Come on. 12 strays who've survived longer in the Waste than any pack has managed in 50 years, Kaela countered. 12 strays who know every rogue den, every safe passage, every water source. You want access? You go through us. Or we just take it, the Nightfall wolf said. You can try. But Iron Fang already did, and here I am. Ronan finally spoke. Enough! His voice cut through the clearing like a blade. Everyone knows why we're here. The Waste has always been neutral ground because no one could hold it. Now this girl claims she can. Woman, Kaela corrected. I'm not a girl anymore. Something flickered in Ronan's eyes. Regret? Anger? She couldn't tell. Fine. This woman wants to make deals. Let's hear them. Kaela took a breath. This was it. Everything depended on the next few minutes. I'm offering passage through the Waste, she said. Hunting rights in the northern section. Safe routes between territories that currently require 3-day detours. In exchange, I want recognition. Formal recognition that my pack holds this territory. That's it? Mira sounded surprised. You're not asking for tribute, resources? No, just recognition. Why? Because right now, I'm nothing. An exile with delusions. But with formal recognition from the other packs, I become legitimate. And legitimacy is power. The alphas exchanged glances. They were considering it. Kaela could see the calculations happening behind their eyes. There's a catch, Ronan said flatly. There's always a catch. The catch is that Iron Fang doesn't get the deal. The clearing went silent. Excuse me? Ronan's voice was dangerously quiet. Everyone else gets access, Kaela said. Everyone else gets the safe routes and hunting rights. But Iron Fang? You get nothing. You want to cross the waste? You go the long way. You want to hunt? Find your own territory. You can't be serious. Why not? You threw me into the waste to die. Now the waste is mine. Seems fair. Ronan's face flushed with anger. You're making this personal. It was always personal. Kaela took a step forward. You humiliated me in front of the entire pack. You took everything from me. Now I'm taking something from you. This is childish. This is consequences. Mira cleared her throat. I hate to interrupt this, whatever this is, but I have a question. What stops us from making this deal with you and then allying with Iron Fang to take the waste by force? Nothing, Kaela admitted, except that you'd lose more wolves than you'd gain territory, and you'd unite every exile in the waste against you. There are hundreds of us out here. Most are rogues, but not all. Some are just waiting for a reason to fight back. You're bluffing. Maybe. Want to find out? The alphas fell into discussion, quiet conversations between their advisors, calculations of risk and reward. Kaela waited, her heart pounding. Finally, Mira spoke. I'll take the deal. Stoneclaw recognizes your claim to the waste and accepts the terms. Riverbend as well, said another alpha. One by one, they agreed. Every pack except Iron Fang. Ronan stared at Kaela with something between fury and disbelief. This is a mistake. You're making enemies you can't afford. I already had those enemies. Now I've just picked which ones matter. You're going to regret this. Probably, but at least I'll regret it on my terms. Ronan turned and walked away, his wolves following. The other alphas began to disperse as well, already discussing the implications of what had just happened. Mira paused as she passed Kaela. That was either brilliant or suicidal, maybe both. I'm hoping for brilliant. So am I. Because if you're wrong, a lot of wolves are going to die. Mira glanced at Finn and Kira. Take care of her, she's going to need it. When everyone was gone, Finn let out a long breath. Holy shit, we just made allies with 5 major packs. And a powerful enemy, Kira added. We already had that enemy, Kaela said. Now we're just doing something about it. They headed back to the outpost. Kaela felt exhausted, but also alive. More alive than she'd felt in months. She'd actually done it. Built something from nothing. Turned rejection into power. But a voice in the back of her mind whispered that this was just the beginning. Ronan wasn't going to let this stand. And when he came for her, and he would come, it would be with everything he had. The attack came 2 weeks later. Kaela was training with her pack when the warning bell rang. 3 sharp clangs that meant hostile forces approaching. Lots of them. She ran to the watchtower. What she saw made her blood run cold. It wasn't 25 wolves this time. It was 100, maybe more. The entire Iron Fang war force, along with auxiliaries from their allied packs. They'd brought siege equipment, ladders, battering rams, fire pots. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to destroy. Everyone to positions, Kaela shouted. Now! Her wolves scattered, each heading to their assigned defensive posts. They drilled for this, prepared for this. But looking at the force arrayed against them, Kaela knew the truth. They couldn't win this fight, not conventionally. She found Finn near the main gate. Get everyone out through the back passage, the tunnel we prepared. What? No, we can fight. We can't, not like this. Get them out. What about you? I'll buy you time. Finn's eyes widened. Kaela, you can't. I can, and I will. Now go. She didn't wait for him to argue. She climbed to the top of the main building and looked down at the approaching army. At the front was Ronan. He'd come himself this time. Next to him was his father, Aldrich Ashcroft, the current Iron Fang Alpha. And behind them, rank after rank of trained warriors. "Kaela Thorn!" Aldrich's voice boomed across the distance. "Come down. Face your judgment." Kaela stood at the edge of the roof, clearly visible. "I'm right here." "Then you know why we've come. Because your son's pride is wounded? Because you've broken pack law, declared yourself alpha without sanction, made alliances without permission, built a rogue pack in territory that doesn't belong to you. The waste doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to us now." Aldrich gestured, and the army began to advance. "You have one chance. Surrender. Disband your pack. Accept exile." "I am exiled, remember? Then accept death." The first wave hit the outer defenses. Kaela's wolves fought back, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. The walls wouldn't hold for more than a few minutes. Kaela closed her eyes and reached for that power inside her. Not the controlled, measured version she'd been using. All of it. Every drop. The presence answered with a roar. Pain exploded through her body as the power flooded every cell, every nerve, every bone. Her skin felt like it was on fire. Her vision went white. And then she jumped. 30 feet down, landing in the middle of the Iron Fang army. The impact sent wolves sprawling. Kaela straightened and the soldiers around her stumbled backward. She was glowing. Actually glowing, a faint silver radiance that pulsed with her heartbeat. "What the hell?" someone gasped. Kaela didn't give them time to recover. She moved through the ranks like a storm, not fighting so much as dismantling. Every touch sent wolves flying. Every step cracked the frozen ground. This wasn't the controlled power Vera had taught her. This was raw, primal, overwhelming, and it was burning through her like wildfire. She couldn't maintain it for long. Maybe a minute, maybe less. But a minute was all she needed. She carved a path straight to Ronan and his father. The soldiers tried to stop her and failed. The war chief himself, Thane, his face still healing from their last fight, stepped in front of her and she went through him like he was made of paper. Then she was standing in front of Ronan. He stared at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Kaela," he said, "what are you?" "I'm the one you threw away." The words came out strange, resonant, like multiple voices speaking at once. "I'm the one you said wasn't strong enough, wasn't worth keeping." "I was wrong," Ronan said quickly. "I see that now. Too late." Kaela raised her hand and the power surged. But before she could strike, something strange happened. The glow around her flickered. The power wavered. She'd pushed too far, burned too hot, and now it was killing her. Kaela's vision blurred. Her legs buckled. The power that had made her invincible was consuming her from the inside out, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She collapsed. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Ronan's face, twisted with something that might have been concern, or triumph, or both. Kaela woke to darkness and the smell of stone. Her whole body felt like it had been torn apart and reassembled wrong. Every breath hurt. Every heartbeat was agony. She tried to move and couldn't. Her wrists were chained to a wall. "You're awake!" The voice came from somewhere to her left. Familiar. Kaela forced her eyes open, squinting against the dim light from a torch mounted on the far wall. A cell. She was in a cell. And sitting just outside the bars was Ronan. "How long?" Her voice came out as a croak. 3 days. Ronan leaned back against the wall, studying her. "You almost died. Whatever that power was, it nearly burned you out completely." Kaela tested the chains. Solid iron, anchored deep into the stone. She was too weak to break them even if she could access her power. Which she couldn't. That presence inside her was barely a flicker now, exhausted and dormant. "Where's my pack?" "Safe. My father wanted to execute them, but I convinced him to exile them instead. They're back in the waste by now." "How generous." Ronan flinched. "I'm trying to help you." "Is that what this is?" Kaela rattled the chains. "Help? You attacked us, Kaela. You nearly killed a dozen wolves. My father wants your head. The council wants your head. I'm the only reason you're still breathing. Then maybe you should have let me die." I couldn't. Ronan cut himself off, running a hand through his hair. He looked tired, older than she remembered. I couldn't watch that again. Couldn't watch you die, Kaela finished. Like you watched me get thrown out? That was different. How? Ronan didn't answer. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. A moment later, Aldrich Ashcroft appeared. The Iron Fang Alpha looked every inch the patriarch, gray-haired, battle-scarred, radiating authority. Leave us, he told Ronan. Father, Now. Ronan hesitated, then stood and walked away. His footsteps faded into silence. Aldrich studied Kaela the way someone might study an interesting insect. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I haven't decided which. Why not both? That got a thin smile. My son tells me you have some kind of ancient power, that you nearly destroyed our entire war force by yourself. Your son talks too much. What are you exactly? Where does that power come from? I don't know. Does it matter? It matters very much. Aldrich stepped closer to the bars. That kind of power, it's dangerous, unpredictable. The kind of thing that starts wars. Or ends them. Perhaps. Aldrich was quiet for a moment. The council has voted. You're to be executed at dawn tomorrow. Public ceremony. Your body will be displayed as a warning to other would-be rebels. Kaela kept her expression neutral. Then why are you here? Because I wanted to look you in the eye and understand why you did this. Why you threw your life away for revenge. It wasn't about revenge. No, it was about proving I could. That I wasn't just the girl you all threw away. Kaela met his gaze. And I did prove it. I built a pack from nothing, made allies with 5 major territories, held the waste longer than anyone in 50 years. Whatever happens tomorrow, I already won. Aldrich studied her for another long moment, then nodded slowly. You know what? I believe you. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I voted against your exile. Told Ronan he was making a mistake. He didn't listen. Why tell me this? Because you deserve to know. And because I think, in another life, you could have been a great alpha. Aldrich walked away, leaving Kaela alone in the darkness. She hung there, testing the chains again. Still solid. Her power was still barely accessible. And dawn was coming. She was going to die here. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, she just felt tired. And strangely, satisfied. She'd done what she set out to do. She'd proven them wrong. That would have to be enough. Hours passed. The torch burned lower. Kaela's mind drifted, exhaustion pulling her toward unconsciousness. Then she heard it. A scraping sound. Metal on stone. Kaela's eyes snapped open. Someone was at the cell door working the lock. Who's there? The lock clicked. The door swung open. A figure stepped inside wrapped in a dark cloak. Took you long enough. Vera. The old woman pulled back her hood and grinned. Sorry, breaking into Iron Fang's maximum security prison takes time. She moved to Kaela's chains and produced a key. Lucky for you, I've got friends in low places. What are you doing here? What does it look like? I'm breaking you out. Vera unlocked the first chain. You didn't think I'd let them execute you, did you? I've put too much work into training you. They'll kill you for this, only if they catch me, and I'm old, not slow. The second chain came free. Kaela collapsed forward, and Vera caught her. Easy, you're still weak. I can walk? Sure you can. Come on. Vera half-dragged, half-carried Kaela out of the cell and down the corridor. They moved quickly, Vera somehow knowing exactly which turns to take, which guards to avoid. How do you know this place so well? Kaela asked. I used to live here, long time ago, before... Vera shook her head. Story for another time. Right now, we need to move. They emerged into a storage room. Vera pushed aside some barrels, revealing a narrow tunnel. This leads outside the walls. Your pack is waiting about 2 miles north. Can you make it that far? I don't have a choice. Good answer. They crawled through the tunnel. It was barely wide enough for Kaela's shoulders, and the stones scraped her skin raw. But after what felt like hours, they emerged into cold night air. Finn was waiting with 2 horses. He nearly dropped the reins when he saw Kaela. You're alive. Barely. Kaela tried to stand on her own and swayed. Finn caught her. I've got you. Vera climbed onto one of the horses with surprising agility for someone her age. Get her on. We need to be gone before they realize she's missing. Finn helped Kaela onto the second horse and climbed up behind her. They rode hard, putting distance between themselves and Ironfang territory. By the time the sun rose, they'd reached the outpost. Kaela's pack was there, all of them, even the ones she'd thought were dead. They erupted in cheers when they saw her, rushing forward. How? Kaela managed. Kira stepped forward. Ronan let us go. Told his father we'd scattered, but he gave us safe passage back here. Even left supplies. Why would he do that? I don't know, but we're alive because of it. Kaela looked around at her wolves. 12 of them had become 20. Word had spread about what she'd done, and more exiles had come looking for shelter, for leadership, for hope. What now? Finn asked. Good question. Kaela was weak, hunted with an execution warrant on her head. The smart move would be to run, disappear into the deep waste where even Ironfang wouldn't follow. But running had never been Kaela's style. Now? She straightened, ignoring the pain. Now we build, properly this time. Defenses, supplies, training. If they want to come for us again, we'll be ready. They will come, Kira said. I know. Over the following weeks, Kaela's pack grew. 30 wolves, then 40, then 60. Exiles from every territory, all drawn by the same story. A girl who'd been thrown away and became something the packs couldn't ignore. They brought skills with them. Engineers who knew how to build fortifications. Hunters who knew the waste better than anyone. Former soldiers who'd been exiled for refusing corrupt orders. The outpost transformed. Stone walls went up. Watchtowers, storage buildings, training grounds. What had been a collection of abandoned structures became a fortress. And Kaela trained, every day, pushing herself to access that power without burning out, learning to control it, to sustain it. Vera helped when she could, but this was something Kaela had to figure out herself. You're getting stronger, Vera observed one afternoon. They were sparring, or rather, Vera was throwing increasingly difficult scenarios at Kaela while she tried not to collapse. Not strong enough. You beat Thane Corvus. You survived an army. What's strong enough to you? Strong enough that they can't ever dismiss me again. Kaela wiped sweat from her face. Strong enough that when I walk into that pack, they see an alpha, not the girl they rejected. And then what? Kaela didn't answer. She didn't know. Revenge? Vindication? Something more? The answer came from an unexpected source. 2 months after her escape, a messenger arrived at the outpost. Not from Ironfang, from Stoneclaw. Mira herself came, along with a small escort. Kaela met her at the border. Alpha Stoneclaw, Kaela said formally. Alpha Thorn, Mira replied, using the title deliberately. We need to talk. They sat in what Kaela had started calling the council room, really just a cleared space in the main building with a table and chairs. Mira's guards stayed outside. Ironfang is making moves, Mira said without preamble. They're pressuring the other packs to rescind their agreements with you, threatening trade sanctions, territorial disputes, all the usual political bullshit. And most of them are caving. Ashwood pulled out yesterday. Riverbend is wavering. Mira leaned back. I won't lie to you. The alliance we built? It's falling apart. Kaela had expected this. Hoped it wouldn't happen, but expected it. Why are you telling me? Because Stoneclaw isn't pulling out, and I wanted you to hear that from me personally. Why not? You've got nothing to gain by staying allied with us. Don't I? Mira smiled. You've done something I've wanted to do for 20 years. You've made Aldrich Ashcroft look weak. His son rejected you, his war chief lost to you, his army couldn't kill you. That's embarrassing. And embarrassed alphas make mistakes. You're hoping I'll destabilize them. I'm hoping you'll continue being the thorn in their side that you've always been. Mira stood. Stay strong, Alpha Thorn. There are more of us who support what you're doing than you might think. After Mira left, Kira found Kaela staring at the map of the territories they'd hung on the wall. What are you thinking? Kira asked. That we're not strong enough. Not yet. We can defend this outpost, but we can't challenge Ironfang directly. So? So we need leverage. Something that makes us too valuable to destroy, too dangerous to ignore. Like what? Kaela traced the borders of the waste on the map. An idea was forming, dangerous, possibly insane, but it might work. The rogue packs, she said slowly. There are hundreds of them scattered through the waste, disorganized, violent, but powerful if unified. Kira's eyes widened. You want to recruit rogues? I want to give them a choice. Join us, follow rules, get protection and territory, or stay independent and get pushed out by the organized packs. That's ambitious. That's necessary. Kaela turned from the map. Iron Fang has numbers. We need numbers too, and the waste is full of wolves who've been abandoned just like us. It took 3 months to implement the plan. 3 months of traveling through the waste, finding rogue packs, making offers. Some attacked her on sight. Some told her to leave and never come back. But some listened. A group of 12 rogues who'd been surviving in the northern waste for years. A family of exiles from Nightfall who'd been living in caves. 20 wolves who'd formed their own pack and were barely holding territory against rivals. One by one, they joined. By the time winter arrived, Kaela's pack had swelled to over 100 wolves. 100 warriors who knew the waste better than any territory-born wolf, who'd survived impossible odds and came out harder. They weren't trained soldiers. They weren't disciplined. They were rough, brutal, and loyal to exactly one person, the alpha who'd given them something to believe in. Kaela stood on the walls of her fortress, because that's what it was now, a proper fortress, and looked out at her pack training in the courtyard below. Finn approached, carrying 2 cups of something hot. Tea. Vera's recipe. Tastes like dirt, but keeps you warm. Thanks. Kaela took a cup. Think we're ready? For what? For whatever comes next. Finn was quiet for a moment. You're planning something. I can tell. I'm always planning something. Kaela. He waited until she looked at him. What are you really doing here? Is this about revenge? Proving a point? Or something else? That was the question, wasn't it? When Kaela had started this, it had been about survival. Then about revenge. Then about proving she wasn't weak. But somewhere along the way, it had become about something more. I'm building something that doesn't throw people away, she said quietly. A pack where strength matters more than who your parents were, where exiles aren't just discarded but given a chance. That's idealistic. Maybe, but it's better than what we had. Before Finn could respond, the alarm bell rang. Not the attack signal, the visitor signal. Kaela set down her cup and headed for the gate. A lone wolf was approaching, hands raised in the universal sign of peace. As he got closer, Kaela's breath caught. It was Ronan. He stopped 50 feet from the gate. I need to talk to you. You've got some nerve showing up here, Kira said, appearing at Kaela's shoulder with her hand on her knife. I know, but this is important. Kaela studied him. Ronan looked different than she remembered. Thinner, tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Let him in, she said. Kaela, just him. Search him for weapons first. 2 guards patted Ronan down, found nothing, and escorted him through the gate. He looked around at the fortress, and something like respect crossed his face. You've built something impressive. I had time. Kaela crossed her arms. What do you want, Ronan? To warn you, my father is planning a final assault, 200 wolves. He's calling in favors from allied packs. It'll be bigger than last time. When? 2 weeks? Maybe 3. Why are you telling me this? Ronan was quiet for a long moment. Because I was wrong. About you. About everything. He met her eyes. You were never weak, Kaela. I was just too blind to see it. If you're looking for forgiveness, I'm not. I know I don't deserve it. Ronan took a breath. But I couldn't let you die without at least trying to even the odds. That's why I let your pack go. That's why I'm here now. Kaela studied him, trying to find the lie, the manipulation, but all she saw was exhaustion and regret. Your father knows you're here? No. If he did, I'd be the one in chains. Then you should go, before someone sees you. Kaela, I appreciate the warning, really. But we're not friends, Ronan. We're not anything. You made sure of that. Something in Ronan's expression crumbled. I know. I wanted you to know that not everyone in Iron Fang wants you dead. Some of us remember who you were, what you contributed. What I was doesn't matter anymore. Kaela turned away. Guards, escort him out. After Ronan left, Kaela climbed back to the walls and stared out at the waste. 200 wolves. Maybe more. Even with her expanded pack, those weren't good odds. But she'd faced worse. You believed him? Finn asked. Doesn't matter if I believe him. We prepare like it's true either way. Over the next 2 weeks, Kaela drove her pack harder than ever, training from dawn until dusk, building additional defenses, stockpiling supplies. If Iron Fang was coming with everything they had, she'd make them regret it. On the 13th day, scouts reported movement, a large force assembling at the Iron Fang border. On the 14th day, they began to march. On the 15th day, they arrived. But something was wrong. Kaela stood on the walls watching the army approach, and her stomach dropped. It wasn't 200 wolves. It was 300, maybe more. And at the front wasn't just Aldrich. It was Aldrich, plus the alphas of Ashwood and Riverbend. The alliance she'd built had turned against her. This is bad, Kira said, unnecessarily. Yeah. The army stopped just outside arrow range. Aldrich stepped forward, his voice carrying across the distance. Kaela Thorn, you've committed crimes against the territorial order. You've harbored rogues, built an unauthorized pack, and attacked Iron Fang warriors. Surrender now, and your wolves will be spared. Resist, and we'll take this fortress apart stone by stone. Kaela looked back at her pack. 100 wolves against 300. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and trapped. But they weren't broken. She turned back to the army. You know what? I'm tired of surrendering, tired of running, tired of letting other people decide my fate. Then you choose death. No, I choose to fight. Kaela raised her hand, and her pack responded with a howl that echoed across the waste. 100 voices raised in defiance. The army charged, and Kaela let the power rise. Not all of it, not the burning fury that had nearly killed her before, just enough, controlled, sustained. The battle was chaos. Her wolves fought like devils, using the fortress defenses, their knowledge of the terrain, their desperation. But they were still losing. Slowly, inevitably, the sheer weight of numbers was overwhelming them. Kaela fought in the thick of it, her power flowing through her in steady waves. Every wolf she faced, she put down. Every attack she countered. But she couldn't be everywhere at once. The walls were breached, the courtyard was overrun. Her wolves were falling back to the main building for a last stand. And then something unexpected happened. A horn blew from the west, then another from the north. New forces were arriving. Kaela risked a glance, and her heart leaped. Stoneclaw wolves pouring over the western ridge, and with them, Decker's pack. The scavengers she'd fought months ago. And Vera, leading a group of older wolves who looked like they'd been fighting since before Kaela was born. The tide turned. Aldrich's army found themselves surrounded, fighting on 2 fronts. Their discipline began to crack. Wolves started retreating. Kaela fought her way to Aldrich. The old alpha stood in the center of the chaos, still fighting, but his eyes showed he knew it was over. You can't win, Aldrich said. Even if you kill me, another will take my place. I don't want to kill you. Kaela's voice was steady despite her exhaustion. I want you to acknowledge what I've built here. Recognize my pack as legitimate. Grant us formal territory rights. Never. Then this war continues, and next time I won't be defending. I'll be attacking. Aldrich stared at her. Around them, the battle was winding down. His wolves were in full retreat. You're asking me to legitimize everything the packs stand against. Rogues, exiles, the lawless. I'm asking you to recognize reality. We're here. We're not leaving, and we're stronger than you thought. Kaela met his eyes. So you can keep fighting us and losing wolves, or you can adapt. For a long moment, Aldrich said nothing. Then slowly, he lowered his weapon. The council will never accept this. Then change the council. Aldrich looked around at his defeated army, at Kaela's reinforcements, at the fortress that had withstood his assault. Something in his expression shifted. I'll propose a treaty, he said finally. The waste recognized as your territory, your pack acknowledged as sovereign. In exchange, you maintain order here. Keep the rogues in check, provide safe passage as agreed. And the attacks stop. And the attacks stop. It wasn't everything. It wasn't forgiveness or friendship, but it was acknowledgement, recognition. It was legitimacy. Kaela extended her hand. After a pause, Aldrich shook it. The war was over. The words echoed in Kaela's head as she watched Aldrich's army retreat into the forest, leaving their wounded and dead behind. Victory should have felt different, bigger, more satisfying. Instead, she just felt tired. "We won," Finn said, appearing at her shoulder. His face was covered in blood, not his own. "We actually won." "Yeah. You don't sound happy about it. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop." But it didn't. Over the following days, Aldrich kept his word. A formal treaty was drafted, witnessed by neutral pacts, and signed. The Waste was officially recognized as Kaela's territory. Her pack, now numbering over 130 after the battle, was acknowledged as sovereign. She was an alpha, officially, legally. It felt surreal. "You're too young to look that stressed," Vera said, finding Kaela on the walls 3 days after the battle. "You should be celebrating. There's too much work to do." "There's always too much work, that's what being alpha means." Vera leaned against the stone. "But you've earned a moment to breathe." "Have I?" Kaela looked at the old woman. "I've got 130 wolves depending on me, most of them rogues with no training in pack structure. Half my fortress is damaged. We lost 18 wolves in that battle. And the other packs might have signed a treaty, but they sure as hell don't trust us." So I don't know if I'm ready for this." Vera laughed, a harsh, amused sound. "Nobody's ready. That's the secret they don't tell you. Every alpha is just making it up as they go, trying not to get everyone killed. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be true." Vera studied her. "You're not the girl they rejected anymore, Kaela. You haven't been for a while, but you're still acting like you have something to prove." "Don't I? To who? Them? You beat their army, made their alpha sign a treaty. What more proof do you need?" Kaela didn't answer. Because the truth was, she didn't know. She'd spent so long focused on surviving, on proving she wasn't weak, that she hadn't thought about what came after. "Figure it out," Vera said, pushing off the wall. "Because your pack needs an alpha who knows where she's leading them, not one who's still fighting ghosts." The old woman left. Kaela stood there for a long time, watching the sun set over the waste. 2 weeks after the treaty was signed, Kaela received an unexpected visitor, Mara, her old friend from Ironfang, the one who'd looked away during the rejection ceremony, who hadn't said a word when Kaela was dragged to the border. She arrived alone, walking up to the fortress gates with her hands visible and empty. "I'd like to speak to Kaela Thorn," she said to the guards. Word reached Kaela quickly. Part of her wanted to refuse, to send Mara away without a word, let her feel what rejection felt like. But curiosity won. "Let her in." They met in what Kaela had started calling the audience chamber, really just a room with decent furniture and good lighting. Mara entered, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Mara was the first to speak. "You look different." "I am different. I heard about what you did, what you built here." Mara gestured around. "It's impressive. If you're here to offer congratulations, you can leave." "I'm not." Mara took a breath. "I'm here to apologize." That made Kaela pause. "What?" "I should have said something that night, when Ronan rejected you, when they dragged you away. I should have—" Mara's voice cracked. "I should have done something, anything. But I was scared of losing my place in the pack, scared of what they'd do to me if I spoke up. So you let them throw me out to die." "Yes." Mara met her eyes. "And I've regretted it every day since." Kaela wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to that betrayal, let it fuel her. But looking at Mara, at the genuine remorse in her face, she found the anger draining away. "Why now?" Kaela asked. "Why come here now?" "Because I heard you were taking in exiles, building something different, and I thought—" Mara trailed off. "I thought maybe you'd understand better than anyone why someone might need a fresh start. You want to join my pack? If you'll have me." Kaela studied her. This woman had been her closest friend once, had trained with her, laughed with her, shared secrets, and then abandoned her when it mattered most. "What does Ironfang think about this?" "They don't know. I'm leaving without permission." Mara smiled weakly. "Guess that makes me an exile too." The smart move was to refuse. Send Mara back, don't complicate things with old baggage. But Kaela had built this pack on second chances, on taking in wolves who'd been thrown away. How could she deny that to someone she'd once called friend? You'll start at the bottom, Kaela said. No special treatment because we have history. You work, you train, you prove yourself like everyone else. I understand. And if you betray me again, if you put this pack at risk, I'll exile you myself. Am I clear? Crystal. Kaela nodded slowly. Then welcome to the waste. Over the following months, Kaela's pack continued to grow. Word spread about the Alpha who'd turned rejection into sovereignty, who'd built a place where strength mattered more than bloodline. Exiles came from every territory. Some were rogues. Some were wolves who'd just gotten tired of pack politics. All of them were given the same deal. Work hard, follow the rules, and you'll have a place here. Most took it. The fortress expanded. More buildings went up. Training grounds. A proper infirmary. Storage facilities. What had started as 3 abandoned structures became a small town. But growth brought new problems. We've got a situation, Kira said one morning, finding Kaela in the war room. They'd started holding daily briefings, trying to keep track of everything happening in their territory. What kind of situation? 2 of the newer packs are fighting over hunting grounds. It's getting violent. Kaela rubbed her eyes. She'd been up late dealing with a supply shortage. Which packs? Garrett's group and the Riverborn pack. 3 wolves injured so far. Both sides are threatening to escalate. This was the problem with unifying rogues. They were used to operating independently, taking what they wanted. Teaching them to work together, to respect boundaries, was harder than fighting any battle. Get them both here, Kaela said. Now, tell them their Alpha wants to see them. An hour later, both pack leaders stood in the audience chamber, glaring at each other. Garrett was the man Kaela had beaten early in her time in the Waste. He'd eventually joined her pack, but he still had a chip on his shoulder. The Riverborn leader was a woman named Sonia, tough as nails and twice as stubborn. He's stealing our kills, Sonia said immediately. We're hunting in our territory, Garrett shot back. It's not your territory, it's communal ground. Since when? Since I said so, Kaela interrupted. Both wolves fell silent. We have rules here. Boundaries. Hunting rotations. You both agreed to them when you joined. The rules don't work, Garrett said. There's not enough game for everyone. Then we expand our hunting range, open up the northern section. That's rogue territory. Not anymore. We claim it, we patrol it, it becomes ours. Kaela looked between them. But that requires cooperation. You 2 fighting weakens everyone. Understood? Both leaders grudgingly nodded. Good. Garrett, your pack takes the eastern quadrant this week. Sonia, you get the western. Next week you switch. Anyone caught hunting in the other's territory answers to me personally. After they left, Finn shook his head. This is what we signed up for? Babysitting grown wolves? This is what being Alpha means, Kaela said. It's not all dramatic battles and treaties. Mostly it's just this. Logistics, disputes, making sure everyone has enough food. Sounds thrilling. It's necessary. But Finn was right. It was exhausting. Every day brought new challenges. Wolves who couldn't get along, supply shortages, territorial disputes. The constant pressure of being responsible for over 100 lives. Some nights, Kaela lay awake wondering if she'd made a mistake, if she was actually equipped to lead a pack this size. 6 months after the treaty, she got her answer. A messenger arrived from Stoneclaw. Mira was calling a summit, all the territorial alphas, plus Kaela, a formal gathering to discuss trade routes, border disputes, and mutual defense agreements. It was unprecedented. Exiled wolves didn't get invited to alpha summits. But Kaela wasn't just an exiled wolf anymore. She was a power they couldn't ignore. The summit was held at the Old Stone Circle, neutral ground witnessed by all. Kaela arrived with Finn and Kira as her guards, wearing clothes that Mara had helped her pick out. Not fancy, but clean, professional. Alpha clothes. The other leaders were already there. Mira of Stoneclaw, Aldrich of Ironfang, looking older than Kaela remembered. The alphas of Riverbend, Nightfall, and a half-dozen smaller packs. And standing slightly apart from his father was Ronan. Their eyes met across the clearing. Ronan nodded once. Kaela returned it, then looked away. Welcome, Mira said, calling the summit to order. We're here to discuss the new territorial arrangements and how our pacts can coexist peacefully. What followed was hours of negotiation, trade agreements, border adjustments, protocols for handling disputes. It was tedious, political, and absolutely crucial. Kaela spoke when necessary, arguing for her pack's interests, compromising when it made sense. The other alphas treated her as an equal, not warmly, but with respect. She'd earned that respect with blood and determination, and now she was using it to build something lasting. During a break, Aldrich approached her. "You've done well," he said quietly. "Thank you. I mean it. When this started, I thought you were just an angry kid with a grudge. But you've built something real, something stable." He paused. "The waste has never been this peaceful. We're still working on it. Aren't we all?" Aldrich glanced back at Ronan, who was talking with the Riverbend Alpha. "My son asks about you sometimes, wonders how you're doing. He can come visit if he's curious. Would you let him?" Kaela considered that. "Maybe. If he came alone. If he came honestly. I'll tell him." The summit concluded with a formal agreement, written, signed, witnessed. The pacts pledged mutual defense, open trade, and peaceful dispute resolution. It wasn't perfect. There would still be conflicts, still be challenges. But it was a start. As Kaela rode back to the fortress, Kira spoke up. "You know what just happened, right? We signed a bunch of agreements." "No. You sat at a table with territorial alphas and negotiated as equals. 6 months ago, you were a fugitive with a death warrant. Now you're shaping regional policy." Kaela let that sink in. Huh? That's all you've got? What do you want me to say? I did what I had to do." "You did more than that." Kira shook her head. "You changed the whole system, proved that power doesn't have to come from bloodlines or tradition, that someone can build it from nothing, maybe. Or maybe Kaela had just been too stubborn to quit. Either way, she'd done it, built a pack, claimed territory, earned recognition, everything she'd set out to prove. So why did it still feel incomplete? The answer came 2 weeks later when Ronan finally visited. He arrived at midday, alone as promised, and asked to see Kaela. She met him in the courtyard, away from curious ears. "Thanks for seeing me," Ronan said. "I said I would." They stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Ronan spoke. "I need to tell you something. About that night. The rejection." "Ronan, I don't—" "Please, let me say this." He took a breath. "It wasn't about you being weak. It was never about that. You were the strongest wolf I knew, still are." "Then why?" "Because my father told me to." Ronan looked away. "He said you were a political liability, that your lack of bloodline would undermine my authority when I became alpha, that I needed a mate from a powerful family to secure alliances." Kaela felt something cold settle in her chest. "So you just went along with it?" "I was a coward. I chose power over you, and I've regretted it every single day since." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know, and because—" Ronan met her eyes. "Because I want to make it right, if that's even possible." "It's not." "I know, but I had to try." He paused. "There's something else. My father is stepping down. The council is choosing a new alpha next month. They've asked me to take the position." "Congratulations." "I haven't accepted yet." That surprised Kaela. "Why not?" "Because I don't want to be the kind of alpha my father was. The kind who values tradition over people, who throws away wolves who don't fit the right profile." Ronan stepped closer. "I want to do things differently, build something better, and I thought, maybe you'd be willing to advise me." Kaela stared at him. "You want me to help you run Iron Fang? I want your perspective, your experience. You've built something incredible here, Kaela. Something I couldn't have imagined. I want to learn from that." "Why would I help you after everything?" "Because you're not doing this for revenge anymore. I can see that. You're doing it because you believe in something better." Ronan's voice softened. "And maybe, together, we can make both our packs stronger." Kaela wanted to refuse, to tell Ronan to figure it out himself, that she didn't owe him anything. But she thought about her pack, about the alliances they'd need to maintain, about the future they were trying to build. I'll think about it, she said finally. Ronan nodded. That's all I can ask. After he left, Kaela found herself back on the walls, staring out at the territory she'd claimed. The waste stretched out before her, still harsh, still dangerous, but hers. You're brooding again, Vera said, climbing up to join her. I'm thinking. Same thing with you. The old woman settled beside her. What's on your mind? I'm trying to figure out what I want. And? I don't know. I thought I wanted revenge. Then I wanted recognition. Now I have both, and Kaela trailed off. Now I don't know what comes next. That's called winning, Vera said. The game changes when you're not fighting for survival anymore, when you actually have power instead of just chasing it. So what do I do with it? Whatever you want, that's the point. Vera looked at her. You could spend the rest of your life making Ironfang suffer, or you could use that power to build something better, something that makes sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. Kaela thought about that, about the exiles who'd joined her pack, about the wolves who came to the waste looking for a second chance, about what kind of alpha she wanted to be. 3 weeks later, Kaela stood before the Ironfang Council chambers. She'd been formally invited, not as an exile, not as an enemy, but as the alpha of the waste. Ronan had been confirmed as the new Ironfang alpha, and his first act was to extend an olive branch, a formal alliance, trade agreements, mutual defense, and most importantly, a public acknowledgement of what had been done to her. Kaela walked into the chamber where, less than a year ago, she'd been rejected and humiliated. The room was packed, council members, pack elders, warriors, all of them watching as she entered. And at the head of the room stood Ronan, wearing the formal mantle of Alpha. Kaela Thorn, he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. Alpha of the Waste. I've invited you here to formalize the alliance between our packs. But first, there's something else. He stepped down from the platform and approached her. The room fell silent. 6 months ago, I stood in this chamber and rejected you as my mate. I declared you weak and cast you from this pack. Ronan's voice was steady, but his expression showed the weight of every word. I was wrong. About everything. You were never weak. You were the strongest wolf in this territory, and I was too blind to see it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kaela stood silent, watching. You survived what would have killed most wolves. You built a pack from nothing. You earned the respect of every territorial alpha. You did all of this while I sat here, comfortable and cowardly. Ronan met her eyes. I can't undo what I did. Can't take back the pain I caused. But I can acknowledge it, and I can promise to do better. He turned to address the full chamber. Let it be known that the rejection of Kaela Thorn was a mistake, a grave injustice, and that she has proven herself to be everything an alpha should be, strong, resilient, and unwilling to accept defeat. The chamber erupted, some in agreement, some in protest, but Ronan's voice cut through it. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. The protests died quickly. Ronan extended his hand to Kaela. Will you accept this alliance? Kaela looked at his hand, looked at the chamber full of wolves who'd watched her get dragged away, looked at Ronan, who'd broken her heart and was now trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. She could refuse, could reject him the way he'd rejected her, make him feel that same humiliation. But what would that accomplish? I accept, Kaela said, shaking his hand. Not because I forgive you, but because both our packs will be stronger together than apart. That's enough for me. They signed the treaty that afternoon. Formal documents witnessed by both councils. The Waste and Ironfang were now allies. It felt strange, surreal, but also right. As Kaela prepared to leave, Ronan caught her at the door. Thank you for giving us this chance. Don't make me regret it. I won't. He hesitated. Is there any possibility that you and I could... No. Kaela's voice was firm, but not cruel. We're allies now. Maybe even friends, eventually, but that's all we'll ever be. You made your choice. I've made mine. Ronan nodded slowly. I understand. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be an amazing alpha. I already am. That got a sad smile. Yeah, you really are. Kaela rode back to the waste as the sun set, painting the frozen landscape in gold and orange. Her pack was waiting at the fortress, eager for news. "It's done," she told them. "We're officially allied with Ironfang. Trade routes are open, borders are settled, we're legitimate." The pack erupted in cheers. Finn lifted her off the ground in a bear hug. Kira was actually smiling. Even the grumpy wolves looked pleased. That night they celebrated. Not with a formal ceremony, but with food and fire and stories. Wolves from a dozen different backgrounds, all of them exiles, all of them survivors, all of them home. Kaela stood on the walls later, watching her pack below. Mara found her there. "You did it," Mara said quietly. "Everything you set out to do." "Yeah." "How does it feel?" Kaela considered that. "Incomplete." "What?" "There are still exiles out there. Still wolves being thrown away for not fitting in. Still rogues starving in the waste. I've built something good here, but it's not enough." "So what are you going to do?" "Keep building, keep taking in anyone who needs a place. Keep proving that strength isn't about where you came from. It's about where you're going." Kaela looked at her old friend. "That's what this place is. Not revenge, not vindication, just possibility." Mara was quiet for a moment. "You know what the other packs are calling you?" "What?" "The Wolf Queen of the Waste. The Alpha who answers to no one." Kaela laughed. "That's dramatic." "Maybe, but it fits." Below, someone started playing music. Wolves were dancing, laughing, living. Not just surviving, actually living. And Kaela realized that this was what she'd been fighting for all along. Not to prove Ronan wrong. Not to get revenge on Ironfang. Not even to build a pack. To create a place where wolves like her, wolves who'd been thrown away, dismissed, rejected, could become something more. A place where being different wasn't a weakness. Where strength came from struggle, not bloodlines. Where everyone got a second chance. She'd been rejected, cast out, left to die. And instead of dying, she'd built something that would outlast them all. That was power. Real power. "Hey," Finn called up from below. "You going to come down and celebrate with us? Or are you going to brood on those walls all night?" "I'm not brooding." "You're definitely brooding." Kaela shook her head, smiling, and climbed down. Her pack welcomed her with cheers and pulled her into the celebration. She danced poorly, ate too much, and laughed until her sides hurt. And for the first time since that night at the bonfire, she felt complete. Not because she'd gotten revenge, not because she'd proven anyone wrong, but because she'd built something worth building. Become someone worth becoming. The girl Ronan had rejected was gone. In her place stood an alpha who'd earned her title through blood and determination and an absolute refusal to quit. An alpha who'd turned rejection into sovereignty. An alpha who'd proven that sometimes the greatest power comes not from being chosen, but from choosing yourself. And as Kaela looked around at her pack, her family, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. They hadn't just thrown her away. They'd set her free. And what she'd done with that freedom, that was just the beginning.